welcome to Building Habits Using Dopamine. How can we trick your brain and essentially hack your brain into developing the systems that will keep you on track? Let's jump in. This is actually something I just went over with my one-on-one coaching clients in our group coaching call. Every week we do our little powwow training call where we also will go into Q&A. So, hi Allison, welcome. Why do habits matter in the first place? The reason why habits matter so much is because 40 to 50% of all the actions you take in a day are habitual. Think about what happens when you wake up in the morning. What are you doing? You're either reaching for your phone, going to the bathroom, praying, whatever you're doing, most of the time that's automatic. And so think about what you do in the morning in your typical routine versus what you would do when you're on vacation. You're in a whole different environment. Everything has changed. So you're going to have a different response when you wake up on vacation at the beach versus when you wake up in your apartment with the gym around the corner. So how can we build a habit loop that keeps you consistent no matter where you're at? Let's talk about dopamine. So your brain is the dopamine queen. This is extremely important because essentially what you need to understand is dopamine is anticipatory. The dopamine does not come once you get and start sipping the coffee. The dopamine comes from sitting in line at Starbucks going, my coffee's coming, right? So you need to understand that dopamine is more about the anticipation of the reward than it is about the actual reward. The reward is still important because without it, we can't reinforce the habit. So there's four steps to building this dopamine-ridden habit. So cue, craving, trigger, response, right? So the cue is something that triggers your brain. The cue is something that's going to start the dopamine. This is something that is going to make you go, okay, something's happening, right? So for an example, your cue could be something like Sunday morning reminder on your phone to do your meal prep. That's your cue. The craving is the next stage. This is where your dopamine starts happening. So you see that cue, you see the reminder on your phone, and you go, okay, it's time to meal prep. Your brain starts craving the feeling of satisfaction of checking something off your list, or it could be the satisfaction of, you know, when you clip all of the lids onto the meal prep containers and stack them and you put them in the fridge and it looks all nice. That could be the reward too. It could be anything that brings you that sense of reward. And it could just be, I have meals made for the week. I don't have to think about it. Whew, right? The next thing would be your response. So what is actually going to happen? You're going to go to the grocery store, pick up the food, come home and prep the food. The next thing would be the reward. What is the reward that you get? The reward would be, and remember, we anticipated the reward to be you are satisfied that you checked something off your list. So the reward would be going in and actually checking it off the list. Super important here. So let's see this in the meal prep. Let's see this in another example. This is how I have hacked myself into getting all my workouts done, regardless of how I feel, regardless of any motivation. And it's my Friday morning treat ritual. I didn't realize that I was even really doing this until I read this book. I'm like, oh my gosh, I already do this. So your Friday fun treat. Here's the cue. The cue is I have a reminder on my calendar. It's Friday morning treat time. That starts the craving for the coffee and it gets my booty cheeks out of bed because I'm going, okay, well, if I'm going to make it to class on time, I got to make sure that I get my coffee at this time, which means I got to go to the gym now. We got to get up. How I can utilize this. Before my workout, I'm reminding myself, if I get through this, I get my brown sugar shaken espresso. Okay? It could even be that you're visualizing how it feels, what it tastes like before you even get there. And it connects that short-term reward with having a long-term habit to sustain. So without even realizing it, I just tricked myself into exercising 4 times per week because I get my little fun coffee at the end of the week. And now, before I know it, 6 months goes by. I've been to the gym every single training session 4 times per week. And now I have the glutes that I wanted. And the belly fat's gone, right? Heck yeah. So what's also important with this, though, is when dopamine is working against you. Most of us do not have our dopamine doing what it needs to do. And here's a really common example that I see with my clients as well. Essentially, dopamine is neutral, so keep in mind that it will reinforce any habit that it's associated with. It's not good nor bad. It will just make you do the thing that you do when you usually do that, right? So think, for example, the cue. You come home from work after a long day, you sit on the couch and you go, oh my gosh, I am tired. The craving is the relaxation that comes and the dopamine that comes from scrolling on your phone on Instagram Reels, looking at all of my posts. So the craving then is you want to relax, you want to escape. It's not necessarily scrolling itself. The action is you picking up the phone and scrolling, but the reward is that instant gratification and that kind of escapism from your current situation. So over time, your brain is going to crave the scroll, not relaxation itself. So anytime you get anxious or bored or your dopamine just generally gets low, your brain is going to go, oh, let's just scroll on our phone. We know that makes us feel good. Are we still here? And essentially, you become an addict to scrolling on your phone, which we don't want. So here's how you can reverse this. What you can do is keep the cue, keep it the same. You are at the end of the workday, you come home exhausted, but instead of reaching for your phone and scrolling, you can swap that response with something more attainable and restorative and good for you, right? So we could do a 5-minute stretch while the kids come home and run around, because we know they've come home from school and they're like, bro, we're free, let's go outside and play. Okay, let's go play. I'm gonna go stretch while you guys go play. It could be you come home and you have yourself a little protein smoothie, or you wash your face off of all your makeup and then put on a little bit of moisturizer, go have dinner to remind yourself day is over, dinner time, instead of just sitting there scrolling. So this can also be attributed to a habit like you come home and instead of going straight to the gym, you sit on the couch, you have some potato chips because you had a hard day, you deserve a little snack, and then before you know it, you've ate the entire bag of potato chips, you feel like hot dookie, and you don't go to the gym because you're like, oh, well, now I don't have proper fuel, and I'm tired, I feel a little nauseous, blah, blah, blah. There we go. We have created ourselves into a bad habit. How do we break the habit? Instead of coming home and sitting on the couch and grabbing the chips, you could keep everything the same. And instead, you come home, you sit on the couch, and you journal about your day. Or you even, create a voice memo. What are the best things that happened to me today? Or it could be you get on your phone and instead of doing something not productive, like sitting there scrolling, maybe you're making ideas for meal prep, or you're specifically looking for some meal prep ideas and you set a timer so we're not on our phone for forever. The important thing here is to make sure you are repeating this so that it actually continues to happen. And I just want to pause for a moment, say a quick hello to everybody who's in here. I saw a few people had joined. Allison, Octavia, Elizabeth, Alyssa, what's up? We'll do a little Q&A at the end too about habits. But essentially, the last thing about dopamine is you want to make sure that you are utilizing it in a way that will work for you and not against you. So there's a couple other things to talk about here, but essentially one of the other big things is something called the Valley of Disappointment. With this, essentially, like James Clear's Atomic Habits covers this, and I talked about this earlier in the week on my story. Hi, Joe. Motivation will not get you consistency. Motivation is a fleeting feeling that comes and goes when it wants to. So in order to actually stay consistent, you have to insert the system and not just willpower. That's really important because there's going to be this valley of disappointment of when you first start and you think your trajectory is going to be like this, but really the trajectory is more like this. We're starting the habit, we're building, we're not seeing a whole lot of results, but then over time, boom, the results skyrocket. And this is why it's so important to remain consistent with your system and not stay focused on the outside external goal. Respectfully, you know who you are. We're talking about other things right now. So, with this being said, make sure that you are very, very focused on the habits you're building, not just the outcome. If you are focused on staying consistent to showing up with your workouts 3 times per week and meal prepping on Sundays, if you continue to do that, I promise you, as long as your nutrition and exercises are right, you will see results. It will not happen in a week. It will not happen in 2 weeks, but maybe 3 weeks, you might feel a little different. You might feel stronger. 30 days go by, all of a sudden we're starting to lose some weight. We've lost 3 pounds. And then we start to really kind of see those results over time. So instead of focusing on the end result, focus on building the system and you'll get so much further. So let's jump into some Q&A. Who has questions about what is going on in here? Elizabeth, Allison, Octavia, do any of you ladies have some habit questions? In the meantime, I will yap. If you don't know me, my name is Coach Samantha, SammyLee.fit. I help busy professional women build muscle, lose weight, and essentially do it without the BS and not losing your mind. Yes. Okay. Octavia had said yes because the one push up hit different and I can do two now. Dude, two push ups is huge. And that's the thing. It took a long time to get from one push up to two. And it probably felt like dookie and you probably wanted to give up. But you told yourself, I'm going to keep showing up. And eventually you saw the result, the fruit of your labor. Octavia, that's huge. Congratulations. That's amazing. Octavia is actually in one of my 6-week Kickstarter programs right now. And we've done way more than 6 weeks, but she's kickstarted. So she's in my app, she's logging, she's doing what she needs to do. And now she can do 2 push-ups. Let's effing go. Nice. Let's, what else do we have? Honestly, I'll give like 30 more seconds if anyone has any questions. Let's do that. Otherwise, I'll be reposting this to my feed, but if anyone has something they'd like to specifically chat on next week, let me know. We are live every week, every Friday, 1 p.m. Central Time. Okay, so Allison has a question. Trying to drink water first thing in the morning instead of going straight to coffee. Can't get much my mindset on that. Any suggestions to help? This is a great question. So the question is, I'm trying to set a goal of building the habit to have water first before coffee. So let's refer to our habit loop, right? The habit loop being the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. Excuse me. So the cue is something that predicts the reward. So I think what we really should do here is work backwards. What is something that you can reward yourself with if you have the water? Maybe we set this up so that you can't have any coffee until you have water. And you literally cannot make the coffee until the water is done. Now, this is what's going to make this effective, is making sure you don't break this. You have to have, and start small. Let's just go even like 4 ounces of water before you can get your coffee. So then the coffee starts to become the craving and the reward. So you can actually use the thing that you don't want to have first as the reward for what you actually want, right? You want to be more hydrated. So cue. You set an alarm, or you know what you can do actually? This is something one of my clients did. Set a sticky note up on your coffee machine. Drink 4 ounces of water before you can drink any coffee, right? There's your cue and your reward. You can also set that on your morning alarm and have your alarm say no coffee until you drink 4 ounces of water. So then you have the craving. You start to picture your coffee. You're going, okay, at the end of this water, I get my cup of coffee. That's my reward. Then your response has to be your action. You have to drink the water, and then your reward is to drink the coffee. So make sure that you are drinking the coffee after the water. That's so important. And it's going to take some willpower in the beginning because we're trying to build the habit. But eventually, one thing that I actually do is I'm not allowed to go pee in the morning or do anything else until I drink for, I think maybe it's like 8 ounces of water, actually. I don't know. I just have a specific cup and I have to chug the water first thing before I can go pee, before I can make any food, before I pray or anything. So making that the start of your day in an automatic habit will be really helpful. And good, Allison, I'm glad that's helpful. Let me know if you try this and let me know if that actually changes anything. And Elizabeth, I will get to your habit here in the morning too. But Octavia had asked a specific question about this, which is, this may be off, but does temperature matter? I read that water too cold is bad, and that's the only way I can drink it. Listen, no. Think about what happens when water is hot or when water is cold. When it's hot, it becomes a vapor and it, is a gas. When it's cold, it's ice. So the state of matter changes, but the molecular structure stays exactly the same. If you melt an ice cube, it's still pure water, right? So when we're talking about our digestive system, it will not change the molecular structure or how the water impacts you. I haven't seen any evidence that shows anything specific about cold water not being good for you. If you have like a sensitivity to cold water, then probably don't do that. But any temperature water is just fine. And for me, I'll drink cold, I'll drink warm. The other thing for you ladies struggling to drink water, squeezing a little bit of lemon juice, making cucumber water, fresh fruit water like oranges or strawberries can really make that pop off. So if you hate the taste of water, go with that instead of like a Mio. That would be my recommendation. So Elizabeth, my habit is napping during the day and coffee the minute I wake up. Okay, so it sounds like I'm going to assume we are wanting to break the habit of napping during the day and having coffee right when you wake up. So first thing I would say is let's make sure we're getting enough sleep at night before we jump to something like this. But let's say like we want to break the habit of having coffee right after you wake up in the afternoon, especially because if we're having caffeine after 12 p.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. anytime, you're going to disrupt your melatonin stuff. So we have to make sure that your caffeine intake ends, minimum after 5 p.m. If you're someone who can have caffeine and sleep just fine, whatever. But it could disrupt your sleep without you knowing it. So just keep that in mind. I digress. So first thing, make sure you're getting enough sleep at night in the first place. But let's think about what happens when you are like in this habit. Right now, the reward, and feel free to interact with me, Elizabeth, here. It sounds to me like the cue is your reward here would be to feel the relief and satisfaction of having a nap and some coffee. And so in order to shift that to something else, what we could do, and here's what I would recommend, is to stack these together, because it sounds like you're stacking without knowing it. You're stacking having a nap with your coffee. And those are two habits that you're having at the same time. So if you wake up from your nap, you're going to have your coffee. They just happen at the same time. Kind of like, I don't know. So when we are thinking about how to rewire this, what we can think about is what can we stack instead? So it could be if the nap, okay, so I feel so tired. Okay, so we're tired in the afternoons. Okay, let's just do the surface level before we figure it out. Because what I would really say is figure out why you're so tired in the afternoons first and go from there. Hydration is going to be a huge thing. So also make sure you're hydrated. Half your body weight in ounces. If you weigh 100 pounds, drink 50 ounces of water. I know nobody here weighs 100 pounds, but it's the easiest math. So, okay, what we're going to do is stack these. So if the feeling is we're satisfied and now we're awake because we otherwise felt so tired, maybe instead of us going to nap and having coffee, we do something that automatically will give you brain chemicals that make you feel good and keep you awake. So it could be you take a 10-minute walk, however long you're napping. Let's say you take a 20-minute nap. Go take a 20-minute walk and have a nice cup of either ice water or uncaffeinated iced tea, something else that's another beverage, or even decaf coffee if that's what you want to do, so that you're not getting the caffeine and you're doing something that will wake you up and give you good chemicals instead of potentially like stalling your day. So it could be instead of laying down to nap for 20 minutes and then having coffee to wake up, we go for a walk in the sunshine where we're going to get those vitamin D, good chemicals, and then we can have a nice fun drink as part of that reward. So then your brain starts going, okay, if I go for my walk, then I can get my coffee. And until I go for my walk, instead of napping, I don't get to have any coffee. And the coffee has to be decaf. So that's what I would say as an example for this. Now, what's more important than shifting this habit, I believe, is yes, shifting the habit, but let's also make sure that we are doing something to prevent you from getting so tired at the end of the day or even in the middle of the day. Hi, Sydney. That's my sister. So if we're feeling like we need to collapse and sleep by 2 p.m., are we hydrated? Have we done any physical activity that day? Like going for a walk first thing when you wake up can get you vitamin D, so it's going to help you. It's going to help regulate your melatonin. It will work wonders for you, I swear. The other thing you could even do is, if the walking is just not possible, you could go into the backyard, take off your shoes and put your feet in the grass and ground yourself. And grounding to the earth will also help to give you some more energy. There's also another thing called the Navy SEAL nap that I like to implement, which is you put your feet up like on a couch and you lay on the floor with your back on the floor. And then you get to close your eyes for 9 minutes. And if you sleep, you sleep. If you don't, you don't. But you're just doing nothing for 9 minutes. So, yeah, let's make sure that you're getting 8 hours of sleep at night. Especially the other thing here too, if your energy is really collapsing in the afternoon, number one, that's natural. Our menstrual cycles and our energy cycles are like that as women. But the other thing is, what kind of breakfast are you having? Are we having a donut and coffee? Because that kind of sugar is going to make you crash. If we're having protein and fiber, like let's say eggs and sourdough and a bowl of Greek yogurt, that's going to give you a lot more energy than just your croissant, right? And you won't crash later because the fiber and the protein will keep you satiated. Okay, we've been yapping. This is long. I hope that this has been helpful. And let me just check and make sure there's no more questions in here. Okay, gang, thank you for joining me. We are here every single week, Fridays at 1 p.m. Central Time. I'm going to put a poll up so that we can discuss what next questions we'll do for next week. So, Elizabeth, I hope that was helpful. Was that helpful? She says it makes sense. Cool. All right, angels, I will see you next week, same time.